Okay, we're going live again. Today, trying to get better angles on a lot of these things and having issues working on improvements. Stuff I wanted to do, but okay. Now, so let's talk about. Oh, first of all, welcome to the Flipping and Wholesaling Houses in New York show. I am Michael Pinter, where I teach you how to start flipping and wholesaling houses in New York, or if you're already doing it, how to grow your business. Now, we are talking about what is a purchase agreement. So first of all, in New York, we call that a contract. In a lot of states, they call it a purchase agreement. Some states, they call it a purchase and sale agreement, P&S, to get really fancy. That is an agreement between a seller and a buyer to purchase a property. And in it are going to be, hopefully, all of the obligations of the seller and all the obligations of the buyer. So there are very, 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 should I draw my sheet a little? I don't know. Very basic contracts that occur that I've seen that work in most states, and you don't really get into a lot of the obligations of both parties. In New York, that contract is usually 6 pages long with a load of boilerplate crap in it, and basically most attorneys, because in New York we're an attorney state, so take a step back. In general, most real estate transactions in 49 states take place between a buyer and a seller. Seller wants to buy, seller wants to sell, buyer wants to buy. They agree on a price. Buyer can take out a contract and say, sign this. Sometimes there's a deposit given. Sometimes it's minimal. Sometimes it's not even deposited. And that's how most real estate transactions in this country take place. In New York, it's dramatically different. So a transaction in New York will take place between a seller's attorney who will generate the contract and a buyer's attorney who will then negotiate with the seller's attorney over the contract. Obviously, they'll be in contact with their clients, but really the negotiations take place between those two parties, and they will go through this boilerplate and cross out things and add an addendum to it, a rider to it, which supersedes everything in the contract. And that's how it works in New York. It's dramatically different. And in New York, there's a lot of obligations that both the seller and the buyer have. So, for example, in other states, if a seller wants to get out of the contract, he will probably get out. Now, a buyer can do certain things in other states to protect himself from a seller backing out. For example, he can go record that contract with the county, or record an affidavit of contract or a memorandum of contract, depends what county and what state you're in. In New York, once a contract is signed, seller's not getting out of the contract because the language in it basically say that if the seller decides to change his mind, the buyer can file a lis pendens against the property, which is the same as if he had a mortgage and he didn't pay it. It's basically a foreclosure. He can't sell it to anybody else with that lis pendens on it. And B, very important, he can sue the seller for specific performance for the entire purchase price. So sellers have called me on occasion, say, I've changed my mind, I'm not doing that, and I've usually said, just speak to your attorney. In which case, sometimes within an hour, sometimes within a day or two, they say, when can we close? So that is a huge advantage of doing business as a real estate investor in New York. Now, another part of business that's very different in the contract process or the purchase agreement process in New York is that the typical EMD, the earnest money deposit, the amount of money given when a contract is signed is, how am I looking up there? I'm looking at the light. I should be looking at the camera. The typical amount in New York is 10% of the purchase price. Now, if you were watching another state, you may have just fallen off your seat or had a heart attack. So hopefully you can get back on. And I will tell you that is true. If I'm buying a property for $400,000, typically seller's attorney is going to ask for $40,000. Now, you can negotiate that, and there should be a negotiation in that. But the reason why it's so much is because it all comes back around to these attorneys. So the attorney is generating this contract and sending it to the other side. The attorney does not want the buyer to not be serious and therefore wants him to put up a significant deposit. Another thing that happens in New York, which is extremely uncommon, is there is no inspection period in New York or inspection contingency in New York for a standard residential contract. It is common in commercial contracts for there to be an inspection period, but on residential contract it's not. What happens in New York is that when a buyer and a seller agree on a price, the buyer then orders an inspection immediately, and if there's any repairs done, they'll add that to the rider of the contract. I mean, it can be a negotiation between the buyer and the seller, but inspection periods get done before the contract in New York. as opposed to after the contract in 49 other states, where there's this period of time where the buyer can just back out, right? It's one of the reasons why a lot of gurus on the internet will tell you that wholesaling is risk-free because you go into contract, you have an inspection contingency, you can't find a buyer, just get out. But not the way it works in New York. So every time I go into contract, I'm going in hard, and I either have to close or I can assign the contract, assuming I made sure that the contract was assignable, because standard contracts in New York are not assignable. Clause 26 in the contract says no assignability. Now, you can negotiate that, and if both parties agree, you can cross it out and write that the contract can be assigned. Now, a big part, what I mentioned a little bit before, which is important, is that in other states, this earnest money deposit is a nominal fee, sometimes $50, $100, and very often the seller doesn't even deposit the check. They'll take a check and they go, "Thank you," but they won't deposit it, and whether they deposit it or not is not really legally relevant. In New York, most of the contracts have language that say until the funds clear, we're not in contract. So it has happened to me that a seller's bounced a check. I'm sorry, that a buyer, when I was selling a property, bounced a check. In almost every instance, it was just an oversight, and I didn't really care. They sent the check from the wrong account, that kind of thing. But understand that until whatever the agreed upon earnest money deposit clears, those funds clear, whether it's a wire or a check, until those funds clear, nobody's under contract. And it's important to understand that there really is only that point in the buying process. There's before the contracts are fully executed and after. And this is a point that I brought up before that I've gotten a lot of crap from a lot of people about, and I could not care less because I will stand behind this every step of the way. If you're selling a property and the contracts aren't signed, you should be very clear to the buyer that you're accepting his offer, but you are continuing to market the property until contracts are fully executed. Now, why? The reason you do this is because buyers can get the hell out of the contract whenever they want for no reason. For you to say, "I'm going to be this good guy, we shook hands, I'm not marketing it, I'm not taking other offers," you're being an imbecile. And I only say this because I've been burned so many times from buyers who promised me they were on their way to the lawyer to sign, or promised me they were on their way to the bank to get the check, and then ghosted me. Just changed their mind. Or what happens very often is that you'll get a simple text or an email from buyer's attorney: "Sorry, my client changed his mind, bye-bye." So there is only one point in the process that matters: when contracts are fully executed. So every time I accept an offer, every time, and my dispositions manager and everybody on my team knows this, we say the same beautiful, beautiful words. "We're accepting your offer. Just understand we're going to continue to market the property until contracts are fully signed." Now, what does that mean? It does two things, two incredibly beautiful things. Number one, if I get a better offer and I decide to take it, and I may not, sometimes I stick with the first offer, I already told the guy I'm going to continue to market it. Number two is it makes them move quickly if they're serious. So those are two great things as a seller. So understand that this purchase agreement, when you're selling a property, there is accepted offer irrelevant. I had a moron, idiot, jerk realtor yell at me because I wanted to see the property because it was 2 doors down from a property that I'm in contract on. I wanted to see it, and he kept yelling at me, "This is an accepted offer. We're doing an inspection." I go, "Who cares?" He goes, "Well, it's an accepted offer." Like, I'm sorry. That's just stupid thought. That's not a realtor you should use. I know you think it is. "Oh, this guy's a man of his word. His word is oak." It's bullshit. That guy's going to not show the property to what he thinks is a potential buyer for some idiot who said agreed on an offer and is doing an inspection. That inspection might come up with crap. If it comes up with crap and the guy wants to change his mind, there's no deal. There is no deal until contracts are fully executed. There is a deal once they are. Once contracts are fully executed, I don't care what kind of offers I get. Before contracts are fully executed, this property is on the market. Accepting an offer is irrelevant. It means nothing because the buyer is under no obligation to buy. Why the hell should I be under obligation to sell to him? So we got completely off track on this one, but I feel very strongly about this, as you can see. If you want to argue with me, I'm happy for you to put in a comment. If you're interested in all the ways I can help you, go to howtoflipnewyork.com. If you're interested in my course that teaches how to do what I do, go to howtoflipnewyorkcourse.com. If you're interested in one-on-one coaching, go to coaching.howtoflipnewyork.com. If you are watching on YouTube, please subscribe. If you have any comments, please put comments in there. I really appreciate them. I go live 5 times a week, and sometimes I don't know what to say. All comments are good. Doesn't even have to be about the topic of the video you're watching. If it's a simple question, I'll reply with an answer. If it's a topic I've covered before, I'll send you a link to a video or videos on that topic. And if it's something new, I'll do a new video on it. So thank you very, very much for watching.